Hello students. In the last presentation I have discussed the projective techniques, and today in this presentation I will cover the last part of chapter 2, which consists of the behavioral analysis, and under this I will discuss interview, observation, behavioral ratings, nominations, and situational tests. Behavioral analysis. A person's behavior in a variety of situations can provide us with meaningful information about her or his personality. So basically, observation of behavior serves as the basis of behavioral analysis. Okay, so an observer's report may contain data obtained from interview, observation, ratings, nomination, and situational tests, and we will examine these different procedures in some details. So first it is interview. Now interview, you all know that it is a very commonly used method for assessing personality, and this involves talking to the person being assessed and asking specific questions. So diagnostic interviewing generally involves in-depth interviewing which seeks to go beyond the replies given by the person. And interviews may be structured or unstructured depending on the purpose or goals of assessment. You all know this, we have done this earlier in class 11 as well. We all know that what are the types of interviews. There are this structured interview and one is unstructured interview. So talking about the structured interview, it follows a set of very specific questions and set procedure. This is done often to make objective comparison of persons being interviewed, and use of rating scales add to the objectivity. Whereas the unstructured interview, it involves asking a number of questions, not specific, to develop an impression about a person. So the way a subject answers and presents himself and answers the questions carries enough potential to reveal about his or her personality. Okay. Next, we have observation. Use of observation for a personality assessment is a sophisticated procedure that cannot be carried out by untrained people. It requires careful training of the observer and fairly detailed guideline to carry out analysis to use observations to assess personality. So behavioral observation, it is another method which is very commonly used for the assessment of personality. Although all of us watch people and form impressions about their personality, use of observation for personality assessment, it requires training. It is not like the layman observing another person and then passing judgments. Here, in assessing personality, the method as used, observation, it is not like that. So in spite of the widespread use of this method, it has following limitations. First and foremost, very importantly, professional training is required for collection of useful data and is quite demanding and time consuming. Second, maturity of the observer is a precondition, else personal biases can alter the assessment. So very importantly, the observer must be mature enough, and this is actually a precondition. Mere presence of the observer may contaminate the results. Many times there is this social desirability. As of now we know what is social desirability. So if the observer is present and the observee knows that he or she is being observed by someone, he or she will behave in a way where the observer wants to see the things. That means The person being observed, he or she feels that they should behave in a way where the others will accept their behavior. Okay, so these are actually the limitations to be or conditions to be followed. Behavioral ratings. Behavioral ratings are frequently used for assessment of personality in educational and industrial settings. Okay, so behavioral ratings are generally taken from the people who know the assessee intimately and have interacted over a period of time. So, in order to use ratings, the traits should be clearly defined in terms of carefully stated behavioral anchors. Why is it so? Because they attempt to put individuals into certain categories in terms of their behavioral qualities. So the categories may involve different numbers or descriptive terms. And it has been found that use of numbers or general descriptive adjectives in rating scales always creates confusion for the reader. So that there is no confusion, the traits has been used in a way that it has been defined in clear terms. Okay. Now the behavioral ratings are also not free from any limitations. It do has certain limitations. Okay. And the method of rating, it suffers from the following major limitations. Let's see. So the first one is that the raters often display certain biases that color their judgments of different traits. If I have to give you an example, so most of us are greatly influenced by a single favorable or unfavorable trait, yes, and this often forms the basis of a rater's overall judgment of a person. And this tendency is known as the halo effect. Okay, so based on one thing that if I hold an opinion about myself that I am very good, but at the back of our mind or behind our personality, maybe we are not. So there, this halo effect plays its role. Okay, so raters generally display biases that color their judgments of different traits. And second, raters have a tendency to place individuals in the middle of the scale, that is middle category bias, or in the extreme positions called extreme response bias. So, uh, in the middle category bias, what they do is that they avoid the extreme positions, or in the extreme positions, they avoid the middle categories on the scale. Okay, so these are the two limitations that lies with the behavioral rating. Next, we have nominations. So nominations, this method is used in obtaining peer assessment. So it can be used with persons who have been in long-term interaction and who know each other very well. So in using nomination, each person is asked to choose one or more persons of the group with whom she or he would like to work, study, play or participate in any other activity. So the person may also be asked to specify the reason for her or his choices. So nominations thus received may be analyzed to understand the personality and behavioral qualities of the person. So this technique has been found to be highly dependable, although it may also be affected by personal biases. Last, we have the situational tests. So situational tests, what is it? So a variety of situational tests have been devised for the assessment of personality, and the most commonly used test is situational stress test. As the name itself suggests, situational tests. So most importantly, situations are required for these tests. Okay, so the most common test is the situational stress test. It provides us information on how a person behaves under stressful conditions. So in performing this test, the person is given a task under stressful environment where others are instructed not to provide any support and act non-cooperative. So this is kind of role playing, okay? So the subject is observed and a report is prepared. And the situations can be videotaped and observed for assessment later. So basically it is kind of role playing where observation also comes into play. And likewise, the behavioral analysis is done through interview, observation, behavioral ratings, nomination, and situational tests. Behavioral ratings, as the name suggests, there are certain ratings. So there, paper and pencil test we can say. Interview, of course, it is face to face. Observations, again, we have to observe it. And the rest, nomination, it is again kind of paper pencil test. And situational tests, again it is role play and observation is involved. Okay, so with this we come to the end of this chapter. It is done. If you have any question, you all can ask. I have not included any questions. I will give it to you in the next presentation. Okay, thank you.